Hey guys, let's talk about how President Harry Truman signed Executive Order 9981, creating the President's Committee on Equality of Treatment and Opportunity in the Armed Services.
The order mandated desegregation of the U.S. military. The first point in the executive order states, "It is hereby declared to be the policy of the President that there shall be equality of treatment and opportunity for all persons in the armed services without regard to race, color, religion, or natural origin."
That's right, Keegan. This policy shall be put into effect as rapidly as possible, having due regard to the time required to effectuate any necessary changes without impairing efficiency or morale.
Truman's order received pushback from politicians, generals, and friends who opposed integrated military.
Dang, Keegan. It seems you've heard about this before.
Well, no duh.
Well, then after that, Truman wrote in response to his detractors, "I'm asking for equality of opportunity for all human beings, and as long as I stay here, I'm going to continue that fight."
Yeah, and then W. Stewart Symington, the first Secretary of the Air Force, supported President Truman's initiative, which resulted in the Air Force being the first fully integrated branch of the military.
Oh yeah, and by December of 1949, the Air Force reported that the number of integrated units had doubled between June and August 1949. The Air Force's desegregations measure represented the swiftest and most amazing upset of racial policy in the U.S. in the history of the U.S. military.
Also, according to Ebony magazine, at many bases in the Jim Crow South, the Air Force ignored local segregation laws operating integrated housing, schools, stores, and recreation facilities for the airmen and their families.
Dude, that's absolutely insane to me. Do you know what else happened, Keegan?
What happened?
Brown versus Board of Education.
Oh yeah, dude, that came up and surprised me like a Minecraft creeper. It was, very. Let's talk about it.
Alright, so on May 17th, 1954, U.S. Supreme Court Justice Earl Warren delivered the unanimous ruling in the landmark civil rights case Brown v. Board of Education in Topeka, Kansas. State-sanctioned segregation of public schools was a violation of the 14th Amendment and therefore was unconstitutional.
Then this historic decision marked the end of the separate but equal precedent set by the Supreme Court nearly 60 years earlier in Plessy v. Ferguson and served as a catalyst for the expanding civil rights movement during the decade of the 1950s.
The arguments were to be heard during the next term to determine just how the ruling should be imposed. Just over 1 year later, on May 31st, 1955, Warren read the court's unanimous decision.
Now referred to as Brown 2, instructing the states to begin desegregation plans with all deliberate speed. Let's also bring up President F.D. Roosevelt's Executive Order 8802.
Oh yeah, why was it issued?
It was to help with the pressure from civil rights activists and about concerns about discrimination in the defense industry.
Wasn't A. Philip Randolph the one who made it happen with Eleanor Roosevelt?
Yeah, and the way people reacted, some were happy with it, but others not so much.
What were the results?
They prohibited discrimination in the defense industry, established fair employment practices, and bowed the Second Great Migration.
Aren't people still affected by it?
Yeah, it still helps black people to this day it still helps black people not be discriminated and segregated.
What about the Voting Rights Act of 1965?
Oh yeah, it was caused by a nonviolent campaign in March 1965 by voting rights marchers in Alabama, culminated in a televised brutal attack by state police on the Edmund Pettus Bridge.
Wasn't Landon B. Johnson the one who pushed for it?
Yeah, a lot of people didn't like it, but some others did.
How did it help?
It removed racial discriminatory voting practices, such as popular ones from the South.
It also still affected us because anyone of age can vote without having to take unnecessarily difficult tests, having a grandparent who could vote, or anything along those lines.
Alright guys, thank you for watching. Have a good one.